Good evening, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Motivational Mondays. I am your host, Fionia Salmon. Motivational Mondays focus on inspiring and also motivating others. This evening, we'll be speaking with Dr. Courtney Faulknor, um, the Assistant Chaplain for the Jamaica Constabulary Force. The discussion will focus on health, coping with the strategies for stress management, and how to avoid burnt out. We will also discuss an app he has developed which help in that regard. Get out your notepads and also be prepared for an inspiring, informative discussion. Before we dive into the interview, just as a reminder that Motivational Monday is brought to you by Fionia Distributors, where you can purchase my book, It Will Be Long But Not Forever. Also, my motivational t-shirt that I'm also wearing, It Will Be Long But Not Forever. And also, if you're looking to take your mixology skills to the next level for the summer, go ahead and get my 8-piece Ionia stainless steel barware set. I'm happy to have you online with us, whether you're listening on Facebook or YouTube. Please note, if you comment on YouTube, we can place it on screen for everyone to see. So head over to Fionia and Friends on YouTube. Now let's get into the discussion. This evening, we're going to talk with Dr. Faulkner, and he will be taking us through his life. And also, he has developed an app that we are so intrigued to hear about. Dr. Faulkner, welcome to Motivational Mondays.
Thank you, Fiona, for having me. It's my pleasure being here.
Thank you so much. We just want to get a brief moment to get to know you. Give us three things that actually describe you. Just three things right off the bat.
I would say, firstly, that I am a visionary. I love to think and to forecast things before it happens. I like to create things, right? The second thing about me, I think I'm a very good father, right? I don't want to leave that out. That is very important to me, and I would say a spiritual caregiver. That is very critical to me also.
Now, tell us a little bit about your childhood years. How was that growing up? How was it growing
Uh,
up?
that was a difficult one. I grew up in what they call the garrison or the inner city, the belly of Waterhouse, and at that time, early 70s, 80s, you talk about the politics and the conflict that arose within that period. So in terms of violence and exposure to violence, definitely, uh, for one to have grown during that era, I was exposed to that. It was good though because I was grounded. I am the seventh child for my parents. Not much in numerology, but seventh mean God blessed number, right? Uh,
Yes.
so I was called the wash belly. And for those who don't understand that term, if you're not a Jamaican, I'm the one who closed the chapter on my mother's journey as having children. So we were not rich, obviously not. My father was the sole breadwinner, and mom was the housewife. And I've always said that it's a very underrated uh, role or profession because she doesn't work for someone. But I tell you, that was critical for us in terms of my own upbringing. So I didn't consider myself poor. Now when I look back, yes, I was poor, but at that time, mom did everything so that we were comfortable and were able to achieve our greatest vision for ourselves.
You mentioned that you grew up in the garrison and
Yes,
also you came from a humble beginning. Who
absolutely.
was your biggest motivator or supporter in your life during those days?
Uh, Definitely, Mama. Affectionately called. Yes,
Yes.
she was my and the family's bedrock, because my father, uh, at the time, a committed law enforcement officer, and one who understand policing, especially during those times. My father would have to be at work most of the time. I only see my father like twice per week, and so I would say my mom uh, was my greatest uh, strength and influencer. And I must admit too that even though that my father was always engaged with the services of law enforcement,
Mm.
he played a very critical part in my grounding as it relates to that of being disciplined. So mom was more the spiritual backbone. Dad was the one of discipline. So I think those
Yes.
two combined, has given me a lot of insight in terms of how I should behave, and for me, for what I'm doing now as an individual myself.
Yes. You said that your father was, he spent a lot of time
Yeah.
outside the home. I
Yeah.
know that he was working and also providing for the family. But
Yes.
how does this continuous absence of your father impacted your upbringing? Knowing that your father wasn't there, and I know how important it is to have a father figure, like being
Yes.
present, not only just a provider, but just being present. How did that impacted your upbringing?
Obviously, it did. It did, because, like, in terms of his presence at school,
Yes.
when we have Parents' Day, he was unavailable. Uh, he was not there at all times for our celebratory moments. So at times you do question, as a child, you wonder if he was more committed to that of the constabulary force. It's over time you really sort of understood exactly the commitment, more so because of my own journey too, as a law
Yes.
enforcement chaplain. Right. So it did. It did. The good thing though is that I had older brothers, uncles, who really stepped in and filled that gap as it relates to being a father to
Mm.
me. But there's no doubt about it that his absence weighed much on me during those times. But over time, I was able to appreciate and understand that his absence has nothing to do with his love for me or
Yes.
the family. It was more out of survival
Hmm.
and being a committed breadwinner for his family, which one of the things that he has modeled for us as children, in that once you have a family, make sure that you're in a
Mm.
position to give to them. So that helped me. That helped me to
Yes.
absolutely, yes.
Did you say that your father career path, it influenced to where you are today?
Absolutely. In terms of being disciplined, and one, there's no way that one can aspire to achieve anything uh, in his or her life without that trait of being disciplined. Very, very critical. And just his commitment to his job, his commitment to his family. My father did not start or commence a project that he was not willing to complete. I remember we were just in about two rooms. Perhaps my audience will understand. At that time in Ward House, we call them government houses.
Yes.
Small room. You see, small house with about two rooms thereabout, and you talk about six of us would have to make do in that. But I remember when he took on the project of expansion, we knew at the time that he didn't have enough resources. But my God, this man was committed in getting the job done. So I believe those traits and those roles that he played, I believe it helped me and have shaped my life of one of being committed to any task. And may I add this too? Usually, and even now as a chaplain, you understand that absenteeism
Mhm.
breaks family.
That's right.
With a long distance, police would have to be transferred to to other parts of the country to live and so forth. But one thing, that is coming home. He's coming home.
Amen.
He's coming home. If it's Christmas, if it's a holiday, and he's going to do something on
Mm.
those special days. So sometimes he compensate when he's at home, because of his absence. And I think those traits and examples and the rule that he modeled for us, I think obviously that had an impact on my life as a family man and as someone who's in ministry and in law enforcement.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That's so
Sure.
powerful to know that even though your dad, he spent a lot of time outside of the household, but he just made sure that discipline was well kept. And
Absolutely. Absolutely.
saying discipline, as you emphasize discipline, what age did you realize that you were inspired to become a pastor?
Uh, when I was baptized, I believe that my calling was very unique, and I was confident at that time. Didn't know exactly what happened or where I was going in terms of ministry. But if you allow me, I would share with you that when I was about 10, 11, about 6 or 7 gunmen came to our home in Waterhouse. At that time, color TV was not popular. And,
Black and white.
yes, and as one writer said that, listen, they want to reap things that they didn't plant. And we were that house that once there's a movie, everybody will gather there. So persons knew that, listen, the Faulkners had a color television. And so out of that, they came to rob. And I remembered my mom, we were all frantic and screaming and all that. But my mom was calculated. She was calm, cool. And I was wondering what was happening. But because I was a wash belly, right? I held on to her nightgown because anywhere Mama went, listen, Courtney was with her. And I
Mm,
remember that she stood in that passage. And as I'm saying to you, I just feel a little chill. She stood in
mm,
that passage right there in her nightgown and she got down on her knees and she lifted her hands. And I can't forget her words. Daniel, God
mm.
surely will deliver.
Amen.
And
Amen.
I'm telling you, there was a door at the back, right? That was only kept on one hinge, right? And it was going back and forth because they were trying to enter. And somehow, I'm confident now, as I'm confident then, it was the grace of God who sealed and protected our home, and no one was hurt, nothing was stolen. And that morning, about 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, I remembered I surrendered my life to the Lord. And
Amen.
from that experience, about 14, got baptized at 14, and I was always involved in youth activity. But I remember I went to a camp, can't forget the camp, and I was asked to speak. And I told the camp director, I said, no, 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 because there was another brother who was considered the preacher, right?
Yes.
But he was adamant that I should speak. And believe you me, I don't know what happened then. But all I knew that when I returned from camp, I was down to speak at my church there. And from there, the whole matter of leadership and person gravitating to me, I was like the spark within the youth cohort of the church. And so at that time, I knew. But one of the things about giftedness and about the anointing when you're called is when other persons can spot that in you. That is important because many times
Mhm.
we don't see our giftedness. And I remembered like Moses, a man, with short tongue, can't speak properly, and all excuses, but someone believed in him, and therefore, thank God, I yielded to his call. And so at 14, 15, I knew I was called to my first church, I believe around 18, they're about to assist a pastor. Yes, so it's out of that experience, and then I realized that I was destined for ministry. As much as I
Perfect.
wanted not, but the Lord had His way.
What year did you go to college to study to
Yeah.
become a pastor? And what year did you join the police force? Just walk us through those years of transition.
All right. When I left high school, I was compelled to work. Uh, the thing is, I could have gone to sixth form, but there's something about me. I've always wanted to work, and I still believe that my daughter could have gone to sixth form, but I believe it's important um, for her and for us to work, because when you balance experience, work, and study, it's very important. I was working at university hospital. I was a bill clerk at the time, and about a year and a half, I was called upon to be appointed to be on staff. And immediately the Lord spoke to me and said, "No, no, no, that's not what I want from you." And simultaneously, I'd applied to two universities. That was University of the West Indies and now UTech then CAS. And I was accepted for the business to do a degree
Wow.
in business. But somehow I just did not feel the sense of purpose and calling. The day when I went on the campus of the Jamaica Theological Seminary, that would have be about sometime in 1992. I remembered immediately. It's like heaven touched earth,
Mm.
and immediately I sensed in my spirit, this is where I belong. And I just want to go on record that Pastor Charles French, he was one of the influencers who spotted me as a youth and encouraged me, because persons around me, I'm talking about persons who are para warriors, would call me and say, "Listen, you're too young. You're too young. You're
Mm.
just 18, 19. Why we talk about going to Bible school, go to seminary? How are you going to feed your family? How are you going to support yourself? You need to do business and be an entrepreneur and all that." But I was in the noise that was being made around me.
Mm.
And one of the things I want to convey to persons who may be listening, you know, there's going to be a lot of noise around you when God is doing
That's
something
right.
new. But there's somehow in it, there's a stillness within that sound that God is saying, "It is well. This is where I want you to be." So I
Mm-hmm.
started. So I started JTS in 1992. I believe I was one of the youngest students at the time. I was in pastoring. I was involved in ministry, but not pastoring. So I'd met senior persons who were involved in the church. I remember the first year for me was difficult because I was so naive about seminary. I'm going there because I can preach, and I felt like I was the brightest star. But having gone there, you understood that theological training is much deeper than that, and then you are able to learn too from other colleagues in ministry. So 1992 to 1996, I I graduated in 1996, and one of the interesting things about my studies, that usually when you enroll into JTS, you are only allowed to do one minor, right? You major in theology, but you can minor in pastoral, you can minor in guidance and counseling, you can minor in evangelism. I minored in all three, because at the time I felt I didn't know where God wanted me to do. I loved evangelism, I loved the pastorate, and I loved to counsel. So I did that, and then I've been graduated from JTS. I went on to teach as I was a guidance counselor and religious education teacher at Holy Child
Oh,
High School.
nice.
Yes, and that was an experience too for me out there. God bless the late Sister Gertie. She trusted me because she told me that, listen, she really didn't employ male teachers, a lot of male teachers. She kept them very old, very old, right? And so I was pretty young, and you can imagine fresh out of college, just 21, 22, 21, and you're going into high school with all girls. I'm telling you. But thank God, I was very grounded,
Amen.
and having left that. So whilst I was at Holy Childhood, I can't forget. It's a Monday morning. I was called by one of the teachers. They were sitting across from me, and they were looking in the Gleaner. Can't forget, Monday morning. They were reading the Sunday Gleaner. And they said, "Come here, Mr. Faulkner, come here, come here." And I went across to them. They said, "This is for you. This is for you." I said, "What are you talking about?" They said, "Chaplain, this is for you." Because being a whole child, they use me for presentations when there's an intervention. If whatever it was demonic or otherwise,
You're
call
everything.
come on, call Mr. Partner, man. So, yes, and they felt that this was for me. No, the thing is, my father at no time has ever exposed me to the side of policing in terms of this arm of policing. And for two persons I've worked with only for about almost a year thereabout, or near 2 years there, called me and they were very adamant, "You better apply for this one." And I looked it over, I thought about it, and I didn't see my father the same night. But when he came home that week, I said to him, "Dad," because there was no cell phone to call him at the time to say, "Dad," So I reasoned with him. He said, "Listen, I think I can do it, but I will not be pulling any strings for you. You have to go there and prove yourself." And
Amen.
therefore, I did my interview in 1997, about November, and I was called in March 1999. And one of the things, like, when God has a plan for you, no man
That's
can
right.
change. No man can
That's
change.
right. That's right. That's right.
And the more journey on this pathway called life,
Hmm.
I am understanding that man can't do anything about God's agenda. God's agenda must be done.
That's
I
right.
remember I remember when I was in the staff room and you had one phone in the staff room and I was sitting way at the back and someone said, "Faulkner, your call." And because at the time I didn't hear anything about the interview. I did the interview in November. This was March, about no late February about. And it was the late Dr. Vivian Panton. He was a pioneer for chaplaincy in the JCF. And he called and he said, from there he called me Brother Courtney. He said, "Brother Courtney, this is
Yes.
Dr. Panton." He said, "Are you still interested in the job?" I said, "Who is this?" Because I just didn't remember. He said, "This is Chaplain, man." And I said, "Yes, yes, 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 yes." I said, all right. And he said, "Come and see me." And when I met with him, Fiona,
Mm.
he said to me, there was a lot of pushback for you, not because of my capacity. He said, "I did extremely well on the interview. I had the credentials. I was already ordained thereabout. But they were concerned about my age.
Oh,
Yes, yes, my age, because usually the chaplain, assistant chaplain, we carry a rank of a superintendent of police,
oh,
and then because of you're a chaplain, you have to interface with young men and persons who could be my father,
mm,
right? And
oh,
all that. And they thought that, listen, I lack the experience, not the maturity, but the experience and the age. But Dr. Panton said to them that, listen, I am taking a chance
on
on this
you.
one.
Amen.
He said, I believe, I remember his words, God bless his soul. I remember his words to me. He said, "I told them
Mm,
that your presence would give a great impact, offer a great impact on our young recruits or
amen.
young police officers, that they can become great or become someone." And the rest is history. So
How
since, yes, go ahead.
how has faith played a role in guiding your journey, personally and also professionally? Because I remember you mentioned that your daughter, the struggle that you had to,
Yes,
you went through in order
yes.
to have her here with you. So walk us through how faith played a very important role in your life.
You know, I'm speaking now. uh, after serving the Lord for over 30 years.
Yes.
Um, and the reason why I'm trying to put that in perspective for your audience,
That's right. Thank you.
faith is like a seed.
Mm.
It has to be planted, takes time, germinate, and it grows, it blossoms over time. It's not something that, at least for my journey, because there are moments when I question God, and there are moments when I doubt Him
Mm.
because of my present experience. But over time, when the more that I'm tested and the more that God would have placed on my life things that my human understanding is limited to comprehend what God is doing, those were the days when I drew upon my fundamental experiences, because
Mm.
I've said to myself, if God remains unchanged, and He was the God who brought me through that, God, I don't know how, I don't know when, but today, for today's bread, you have to provide it. You have to deliver me.
Mm.
And as you mentioned about my daughter, that was difficult for us. And I question God, because my wife had two miscarriages. One almost took her life. She had to. I remember that I was coming from Mandeville. She called me at the time and said, "Listen, I'm pregnant." The whole matter. Missing the period discussion, and I didn't remember at that time. I just I tuned that meeting because I was excited. Yes, man, because every man wants to be a father.
Mm.
And when I got in that Friday, and we got the test, because I didn't want to do that test before I got there. And when she did the test and it was positive, man, I felt like I felt excited. And
Mm.
I believe by the Saturday morning, following day, or I think sometime through the night, can't remember clearly, she was spotting. When we rushed to Andrew's Hospital, and I believe they did an ultrasound, right? They said, listen, no, she had to go in surgery,
That's right.
because the fetus was at the size of my fist, right? It was lodged and ruptured one of her fallopian tubes.
Mm.
And I was angry. I questioned God. When I look at my wife, I said, Lord, what have
Mm.
we done for this? And the only thing that we, at the time, we could hold on to was our faith. There's nothing else.
Amen.
Nothing, absolutely nothing else.
Mm.
Nothing else. And so you asked me, there are so many chapters in our lives where we had to forego what we believe, what could have caused this, and just say, Lord, you have to take control. And but I'm saying it's not a system of belief that happens overnight. No, no, no. It is built and structured and constructed through a process. Yes, so it has played. I can't exist without that
Vital.
faith.
Yes. Thank you so much for sharing that. And at this point, we're going to take a short break. I just want to say thank you all for joining us on Motivational Mondays, where we inspire and motivate. For this evening, I just want to say hi to everyone listening in on YouTube. Thank you so much for being a part of the show. And also to all my friends on Facebook. Hi, how are you doing? And thank you for joining us. This evening, we're talking with Dr. Faulknor, and right now we're going to dive into managing stress and avoid burnout. And let's dive back into the mental health side of things. How do you view mental health? And what role do you play, or what role do you think it plays in today's society?
Mental health is very vital, very important. And I've always used this analogy that, and my understanding of the human being, we're holistic. body, mind, and spirit. And for the most part, and I'm speaking within the context of ministry in the church, we care about how we look in terms of our attire, in terms of what we do. Our hair must be done, our nails must be done. Uh, and sometimes we look at our diet too, and so forth, which is a big thing these days. And spiritually, we pray and we go to church, we fellowship, and we do all that.
Mm.
But I believe that there is what I call an abandonment of what is very, very critical, right, in terms of our mental well-being. There's no doubt in my mind that some of our physical and sometimes, if I may say, spiritual issues that we're having is as a genesis based on what is happening upstairs. So it's absolutely important in today's society, very, very important, and must be nurtured and must be maintained and must be guarded.
Mm.
Important. And
That's right.
Paul often said it, listen, or transformation as it relates to life and ministry doesn't start with our hands and our feet and our lips. We must be renewed firstly
In your
in our
mind.
minds. So
Yes.
even
That's
so
good.
even so even theologically, the whole mind, as a man thinketh,
So easy.
so is he.
That's
Uh, all that is grounded
right. Hmm.
on the importance of mental health.
Tell us about your recent initiative. Talk about it app that you developed.
All right, talk about it up. It's even though it's less than a month old. It was launched on March 4, but it was conceived. Uh, I would say 2021 thereabout. I remembered having gone through a very difficult illness. I had to do surgery, and we went to Texas for my recovery period. Uh, Wife, family were all there together. And I remember one night, it just dawned in my mind the name, talk about it. And I
Mm.
remember that I typed it and sent it to my brother in law because he's good with graphics and all that. And I sent it to him. And the morning I was excited. It's like I gave birth, or carrying this baby inside me. I don't think at the time I knew exactly where this was going, because one of the things that drove me to it are two words: support system. There's no way, when I looked at where what I got, what I've been through, if I didn't have a support system around me, whether it's the church, my family, colleagues in ministry, there's absolutely no way that I could have made it. But there are persons who don't have that support system around them,
That's right.
and and they just need someone to talk to, or as the cliche states, talk about it. And that is how, right, that vision came in my mind. Uh, Went about a year and after trying to look at how it would be structured. Because at the time I was thinking of an office, a building where a person could come and again. But I remember that, again, about the stigma and persons from my journey in law enforcement. There are persons who really cringe uh, to go and see a counselor. They don't want
Mm.
it. They want odd hours. They want to be very discreet, and they don't want anyone to know about that they're seeking counseling. And I remembered 2 years ago, I was at a conference, and Rory White is the founder and CEO of Seven Crave, and he did a presentation on the value of technology, right? And I remember he spoke about companies who did very well, like Kodak, right? But because they didn't translate or kept up with the times and in terms of technology, they failed. And he said that when he created Seven Crave, there was a pushback, and people were saying, "Boy, now when come to know to nobody now stay home to have their food." You know what I mean? And when he spoke, can't forget. I said to the Lord, I said, God, if this man pass me, if I get to meet this man, definitely I want to hear more about his journey and how he could assist me with my vision. And so say Fiona, so
Yes.
done.
Wow.
Immediately after his presentation, and he walked from the platform and he passed about seven or so tables and he came right down, right next to my table. I kid you not.
Mm.
And the Lord said to me, "Now is the time." I placed this man right there, and immediately I reached. I said, "Sir White, may I have a word with you?" I said, "No problem," and we exchanged numbers, and that was about the over the weekend. By the Monday, we had a Zoom meeting, and he gave me some ideas in terms of how to use technology, right, to bring help to people. And that was how the technical approach got its genesis. And from there, the Lord pointed me to another person, and we sat down. And that is how we have the app today. And I said this on another interview. I remember I was on Smile Jamaica recently, and I said to the interviewer that I know Jamaicans are not there yet in terms of online counseling and using an app
Yes.
for that.
Correct.
But that's fine. That's fine with me. That's okay. It's always to be ahead of the game.
That's right. And I want you to walk us through for someone struggling with stress related issues
Yeah.
or trying to avoid their burnt out at work or even in their relationships or whatever it is. How can they use this app to manage their stress and to avoid burnt out?
All right. So one of the things, and life is hard, and let us not kid ourselves. We're all exposed to different stressors,
That's
whether
right.
it is financial, whether it is as a result of your
Relationship.
work,
Yes.
your relationship. We all have it. And let me say to your guests and to your audience, Dr. Faulknor, I'm exposed to it. I go through it. All of us go through it. The problem that we have sometimes are persons are not equipped to deal with it. So this is not the stressor would be the issue. Is how do we respond to it? Because when we feel overwhelmed, what do we do? What do we engage in? Right now, there's always a positive response, and there can be a negative response. And let me give you an example. There are some persons who would pray. Some persons would do something. They go to the gym. They do something. There are some persons may end up going to the rum bar, drinking, are taking out that stress on other persons through rage and all that. Right? To talk about it up, it is so convenient that you don't need to make a phone call. You don't need to get up to travel to the office. You don't need to talk to anyone. There's no middle person that you need to talk to. Okay, so you want to make an appointment to see Dr. Faulkner. Could I have your name, please? No, no, no. There's no exchange of information. Everything is done confidentially, right? On the platform. There's no external platforms to engage with. So there's no Zoom platform, there's no Facebook Live, there's no YouTube. No, 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 right? Everything is done on the platform because usually there's a stigma um, that when persons are overwhelmed and they know sometimes that they're overwhelmed, but the question, who can I trust? I don't want to I don't want to tell the pastor. I don't want to probably preach on it, and I don't want to be judged because listen, I'm indebted or I'm going through a breakdown. I don't want person to know. So talk about it. Provide that discreet and confidential space and safe space where you can simple download the app, right, and make your appointment. The only thing you need to do is just to do answer probably about 7 or 8 questions, if so long. Because we try our best to keep it very brief
Mm.
because it's an app and we're trying to look at convenience. Person don't want to on a long page and 50 questions. No, no, no. When they get to their therapist, then they can work out any further details. So I'm saying to anyone that who is stressed, who believe that you need an objective person, that you need someone who is non-judgmental. All our therapists, right? Firstly, they are Christians, and that is important for us. And secondly, they are licensed, right, to practice. So there's no one who just want to fit in, right? They are well screened and they're experienced. And I'm saying to your viewers and persons who are overwhelmed,
Yeah,
know thyself and be true. We all know when we're going through stuff that we just cannot. We have done everything about it, and it still remain on our shoulders. I am saying this evening that there is a safe space where you, only you, and the therapist will know about it.
on that note, I want to ask, outside of the app,
Yes.
what are some of the tips that individuals can use to manage their stress
Yeah.
outside of the app?
Sure, sure. First and foremost, I want to begin by saying that one needs to know that is ourselves. Very, very important. Very important. You need to understand where your limits lie and be sensitive in terms of your emotional cycle, in terms of what is happening. Because sometimes we may not know, but sometimes persons around us uh, will see signs and they will check in on you to say, how are you doing? What is happening? I noticed that you have not been yourself lately. I notice when I talk to you. And I'm saying these things sometimes because there are persons who are either naive or sometimes are very ignorant to terms of what is happening. So more than often, your circle, whether it is your employer, your colleague, someone at church, will attend. So if someone comes to you with that, that would be an indicator that something is happening with you. One of the things you need to also do is to take time out of the routine, and one has to be very, very deliberate. Now, life is stressful and demanding, and sometimes our job, our families, and the things that happen around us, we are unable to find the time. But like with anything else, you will never be able to run that car on the same gas without refueling. It's not going to happen. If you fail to maintain that house for years, it's a door is going to leave you, the roof is going to leave you. The body and the mind work in harmony. You have to be deliberate to take time out of your routine, and that could simply mean just going to a beach. In Jamaica, we have a lot of public beaches,
That's
right?
true.
Right. Let's go there, spend some time. In nature helps to sort of get a quiet space to know where you're going. There are times though that sleep is important. Let me mention it. Sleep is important. Ensure that you're sleeping. Usually, sometimes when you're not, when you're under stress, it will impact your sleep, and that is another red flag. You know that something is wrong with you, right? But ensure that you sleep. That's one of the tips. You know what I mean? To go to bed early enough and ensure you get at least 7 to 8 hours sleep. Your diet is important. Make sure that whatever you put in your body is important. This is why on Talk About It app, you're able to speak to a nutritionist. Very important because
Mm,
we understand that there is a correlation between mind and body. But it's also important, very important, that you find someone that you have confidence in to talk to.
that's right.
Talking about your problem, we call it in counseling ventilating,
Mm,
emptying. And even when it's an issue with someone, one of the models that is used within the counseling space is that is known as the empty chair, where the client gets opportunity to speak to the chair as if the person that you're going through the issue with, just empty. It's very important that we find someone. Now, if that person is limited, right? If the person is limited, doesn't have the training and experience to help you, then it's important to speak to. And you can always talk to your pastor. You can speak to someone, a senior person within the community that you trust. But talking about your issues, no pun intended, right? It's very, 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 very important in managing stress. The other thing I want to put on the table, I know your audience may get a little antsy on this one. Your decision making is important,
Mm.
very, very critical. You can't go to ATL or to buy a BMW. As much as I love BMW, but you have a pro box salary,
Mm.
and you either beg borrow the money to buy the BMW and expect that come tomorrow all will be well. You can't enter a relationship that you have seen many red flags,
Mm.
but you blindly, because of passion, you enter that relationship. I tell you this, that one of the things that can help you to avoid stress is to make right decisions. Many times when we are praying and cursing the devil that we do in church and speaking tongues against the enemy, many times the stress that we're going through didn't start in hell. It starts with your decision.
Amen. And on that note, we please go ahead and send your questions on YouTube. So if you're on Facebook, I'm so sorry, but we can't see those questions or those interactions. So head on over to YouTube Live, Fionia and Friends. And also we do have a question from Yojo. He said, "Where can we find the app?"
All right, so very easy. You go to the Google Play Store, you download it, talk about it, and so it's there. Once you go to Google Play Store, just enter "talk about it," and you're on your way. For more information, you can check us out on social media. Our social media handle is Talk About It Ltd. Right, at Talk About It Ltd.
Arlene says, "Right decisions are the key."
Absolutely, absolutely. She's on point. I'm telling you, there are things that we can't escape. Men will understand this. You go to the car wash and you get your car clean and polished, and by the time when you leave, when you're washing the car, the sun was bright, shining, and by the time another half an hour, I mean, rain came. You couldn't have avoided that one. But there are things that we can avoid. And this is why we must be able to process and think through clearly our decisions, especially, and may I emphasize this, and one of the things that we are big on, we talk about it, is marriages.
Hmm.
And we have what is called a premarital talk. And we recommend that persons do not set a date before you get um, involved in counseling premarital talk. Very important, because the date sometimes distract you from the scorching issues that will emanate from the sessions. Right. So I'm with uh,
Arlene.
Marlene on that one. Yes, absolutely. Right decision is critical.
Go ahead, send your comments, send your questions, and Dr. Faulkner, he's open to answer all your questions. But we're just going to take pre a brief break to talk about Fionia distributors. So, if you're looking to support me, go ahead and get my book. It will be long, but not forever. Also, my book is available on Amazon for purchase, and also my 8-piece barware set. Go ahead and get that as well. It's also available on Amazon. And if you're looking for durability, breathable, now that we're in summer, go ahead and get my t-shirt as well. It's also available on Amazon. So thank you so much for your support. And I also want to say, go ahead, if you're on YouTube right now and you haven't subscribed to my channel, go ahead, click that subscribe button, and also turn on that bell that every time I post or a live, you will get notified of this. So now let's get back into the interview. Dr. Faulkner, since
Yes.
you are the support system of everybody, who is your support system?
Very, very good question. Very, very good question. And you usually the persons who are in active ministry, especially, and we call it the ministry of health, usually suffer um, in silence because you have to give the pseudo appearance as if all is well, and because I'm a
Mm,
counselor, I'm a psychologist, I'm a pastor,
yeah,
I'm a chaplain. I don't go through problems. I don't break. I don't cry. Absolutely nonsense.
that's right.
And there's no absolutely no way, zero, that I could be sitting here sharing with you
Mm-hmm.
on this day without support system in my life. Let me start with my family.
Mm,
My I'm gonna move from my wife, my daughter, just for a minute.
okay.
But I was raised in a community where para you know is central. My mom, an ardent prayer warrior. You know, she, I mean, morning time must and to pray for our children. And I think we would have developed that tendency to pray for ourselves. So my mom, I know my mom is what, 83, 84, I believe, thereabout. And I know that every time I talk to her, spoke to her just over the weekend, and she said to me, "You know, someone praying for you, don't it? You know, someone praying for you." Yes. So that is, I would say, the spiritual support that I can't touch it. I can't see her,
Mm,
but I know that she's praying for me, and that includes all
mm,
my siblings, and there is a woman, and I will have to call her name, Carmen Allen. I don't know how she does it, but I mean, she every single morning at 2 o'clock, I can religiously look at my phone and see her voice note for her praying for me. So I must start there. So my
mm,
sisters, my they have a group that they meet every Friday, and I know, and I'm emphasizing that because many times we discount um, the spiritual support that we get. We see the when the tangibles like the money or the things people can give to you, but those persons who will call your name by name,
mm, that's
my
right.
God. So
Mm-hmm.
I must emphasize that. Let me come to my queen.
Mm,
You know, I've asked this question many times to people, that if you were to die and to return,
mm,
would you marry the same person? Usually the feedback when I do that survey, quite a few persons said no.
mm,
I tell you this, that we celebrated our 27th anniversary last month.
Congrats.
And I
Congratulations.
thank you. And I would have known her from high school, at least when she graduated from Merle Grove High. Can't forget. I
Mhm.
was at her graduation. She was in a yellow gown, a yellow gown. I can't even forget. And she was wearing some big glass at the time, those big wipers. And I said to myself, I knew that I'm going to be with this young lady.
Mm.
I tell you that Suzette, wherever she is my greatest supporter. Um, and I don't apologize for it. I am who I am, where I'm at. She has made several sacrifices for me. She protects me. She fights for me. She cheered me along. I remember when I was unwell. I'm telling you,
Mm.
she was like Gibraltar Rock in my life.
Mm.
And if I were to marry again, as much as there are many fish in the sea, there's
You
only
would choose.
one, there's only one catch that my net would pull up,
Mm.
and that would be Suzette. Yes, so
Wow.
she is she has been my strength, and I can go to her, I can be myself, and she knows me. She knows when I'm not on point, when I'm not necessarily speaking the total truth. She knows when I'm down. She understands
Mm.
me, and I'm telling you, I think she's my psychologist and my friend. And I give a lot of credence to her. There are persons who have mentored me over the years. I must commend my my mentors, Pastor French, Charles French. I must I must highlight the late Dr. Vivian Panton, who mentored me for chaplaincy. I could go to him and talk to him about anything. Because let me tell you something. Every person, especially when in the ministry, you need that person that you can talk to. And the
Yes.
person must be one that is non-judgmental. Hmm?
That's right.
Because many times I have clients before me, and I know that they're not speaking the truth. So
Mm.
you need persons that you can be yourself. So yes, I do. So apart from my family, my daughter, Pastor French, Pastor Palmer, that I can relate to. Yeah, these are solid men. I can't leave out my in-laws. They have been a strong supporter. Janet Bramble, that's my mother-in-law. You know, people we heard of horror stories with mother-in-law. You have
Yes.
movies titled Mother-in-law, or Monster-in-law. My mother-in-law is a tower of
Same.
strength. Yeah, man. She's one of my defenders, and
Mm.
she prays for me. I can talk to her, and surprisingly, she's like the mother for both of us. She's my wife's mother, but I'm the same. It's like we have two mothers on both sides. So my mother to her. So definitely my siblings. I can talk to them. I must call.
Be
I
careful. Be careful, man.
no one,
You leave
no one. No,
somebody in trouble.
I have to call. I have four sisters. I, I
Okay.
I love all of them, and I love all of them. Marlon, Cheryl, Colleen, but there's Marcia, and,
Mm.
and and the reason why I think I bonded with Marcia more, because when I was going to high school and my mother wasn't able to attend, I used to attend Arden. I must say that the best high school in Jamaica. Yes, um, my older sister Marcia was like my mom at the time. When it comes on to girlfriends and things of relationships, and even today, I can go to Marcia. I believe I can say anything to her, and I'm not judged. She keep all my secrets for me. Um, yes, so I must single her out, and my other sisters, they're not insecure. They're not jealous. They know that Marcia is my one of my rocks. And one of the things about Marcia too, I left my church, that's Berea Seventh Day Christian Church, that's on the Walton Park Road. That is my headquarters church, and I went to Bull Bay to when I was very young, and in short order, Marcia would have left with me to give me support. And since then, wherever I go, I know when my other sisters will be praying for me, and yes, they'll support me, but Marcia has not left me, and she has been one of my source of strength over the years.
Since you mentioned Marcia so many times, I know that a lot of us need a Marcia in our lives, and I
Absolutely.
want you to go ahead and just wrap this up by encouraging someone about
Yeah.
getting a Marcia in their lives for
Um,
help them to manage the stress and the burnt out.
the saying that no man is an island, and we must understand that doesn't matter how tough we think we are, how much we believe we have built for life's challenges, there will come times in our lives when we need support. And therefore, I want to emphasize that. But you seek a friend before you need one.
That's right.
Whether it is in your family, 'cause I know there are persons who don't have that sort of cohesive relationship with their siblings. I do understand that. But your journey would have taught you, or would have exposed you to persons around you that you believe that you are able to connect with, or persons that you believe that are more mature than you are. And I must emphasize this: persons you believe that are objective. And one of the things with Marcia is that she's not going to sugarcoat or tell me something because I'm her baby Bob, as she affectionately
Mhm.
called me even to today, right? She's going to tell me as it is, and she's going to be honest with me. And you need a Marcia like that, right? Who will tell you when you're wrong, you're
That's
wrong,
right.
right?
That's
So if you can't find your Marcia in your family, right? What about the church? Is there someone there? Is there someone within the community? Is there someone at the workplace that you have cultivated that relationship with over the years, and you're able to be yourself? Because I don't want to go into much about human dynamics now,
right.
but there's what about understanding self, and about the times when you're not seeing who you are, but someone is seeing exactly who you are. You need that person to spot that and to say, Fiona, mm-mm,
Yes,
what you said, what you did,
it just don't
should
make
have
sense.
absolutely very important for
Yes.
us to find a Marcia like that. Yes.
So in the comment section is blowing up on Marcia that Marcia is the prayer warrior. Marcia is the strength. And Marcia, if you're watching, I want to recommend you for stand. I want to commend you for standing up and being there for your brother. So I know everybody's got big up Sister Marcia. Everybody is gonna get a Marcia. Big up Marcia, one of my
Yeah.
favorite too. That's CEO lifestyle. So everybody bigging up Marcia. Thank you so much for your comments as well.
Yes.
And
If,
as we
if, if
close
I may,
out,
if I may, Fiona, before you go,
yes,
if I may, and I think I need to say this. Uh, whilst Pastor French at the time, he was based overseas, and he was a person who really spotted me somewhat at an early age. I must go on record to that Pastor Foreman, who's our president, he would have played a very integral part in my development. I believe, and I must say this, and he'll understand why I'm saying this. It's his wife then, now deceased, uh, taught me my first sermon, and so I must put on record that he has played a critical part in in my early development. So just wanted to add that, Fiona. Thanks for allowing me
No.
to do that.
Yes, you're most welcome. And as we close out Motivation on Mondays, I just want to say go ahead and let our listeners know where they can contact you. What are your handles for them to reach out to you?
All right. So again, the handles at Talk About It LTD. Talk About It LTD. So we're on all social media. You can find us there, right? As it relates to contacting me, right? You can call me directly at 876-544-0021. That's 876-544-0021. I'm on WhatsApp. You may be able to reach me via WhatsApp on my phone. But we're on social media for any more information. You can find us there, or you can go. Remember, I said that go to the Google uh, Play Store, and you can download the Talk About It app. Again, thank you, Fiona.
You're most
And
welcome.
again, just meeting you, is a testament
That's right.
that when you step out and be obedient to the Lord, well, I'm gonna put some people in your life, and I don't know Fiona from Adams, as Jamaica would say, but here we are. God
That's
is good.
right.
God is good.
God is good all the time. God is good. And on
Absolutely.
that note, I just want to say thank you. Thank you, everyone who are listening in on YouTube. Thank you so much. Go ahead, subscribe. What are you waiting on? Go ahead and support me. Go ahead and subscribe. And as a reminder, I just want to say that Motivation on Mondays will be airing every other Monday. So next Monday, there won't be any Motivation on Monday, but come Thursday, we will be having Thankful Thursday. So every other Thursday, there will be Thankful Thursday. And yes, you can't afford to miss this Thursday coming. That is next week's Thursday, because we're going to have a special guest. And don't forget to support your girl, Fionia Salmon underscore. Go ahead, follow me on Instagram, Fionia underscore someone official. Go ahead, send me a friend request, whatever it is. And if you do love this interview and everything, and you want to share it with your friends, your family, your co-worker, go ahead. As soon as this is aired, it will be available on YouTube. So go ahead, share it from YouTube and tell your friends about it, that, hey, you listened to this interview with Dr. Faulknor and it was so informative and you want to share it with them. So go ahead. Those are the ways that you can support me: by subscribing, sharing, commenting, and do everything to support me and making sure that it goes wide and our community becomes bigger. So thank you so much. Get your t-shirts. Great interview. Thank you, Jillian. Go ahead, get your t-shirts on Amazon. Go ahead, get your barware set, your 8-piece stainless steel barware set. And also, don't forget, get my book. It will be long, but not forever. And thank you for joining me this evening on Motivational Mondays with Dr. Faulknor. Dr. Faulknor, thank you so much for being here. And I'll see you all next time. Bye.